Inside Edition came to my work and tricked me into going there. Now, I've already been off of probation for 2 years.
This is way behind you.
Correct. It's way behind me. I'm now moving on. And on the video it says, and he's got one last statement for his victims. That's not how that went down.
There's 2 different articles that I saw, and both the videos said video unavailable.
So there was a lot of comments like, shouldn't have done that. That's so trashy of you guys. That guy did his time. What if he left there and killed himself? So they just took it down. It's gone.
Look at this. It's playing.
This guy is really worked up. It's time to win some money. He's
Oh,
about to be a contestant on a
How'd you find it? I lose my job. I happen to call one of my buddies, Ed, the old manager that I used to work for. And he says, hey, listen, he goes, I just got off the phone with Teddy Rock'em Steady. He's up in Ohio. He's got his own telemarketing room, advertising vacant, undeveloped land. So I was like, really? Well, he goes, yeah, you want me to three-way him in? I said, yeah, sure. So with this telephone call, I thought this has got to be what I'm supposed to do, because the three-way call is if you and I are on the phone and then we three-way in somebody else, if you hang up or I hang up, it disconnects from that third-party person.
Right.
So Ted's voicemail pops up and Ed hangs the phone up. Well, somehow I'm still connected to Ted's voicemail. So I leave him a message to tell him to call me. So he calls me. So for me, I was like, man, this got to be fate. We're supposed to disconnect the phone. So,
or maybe it was just a new feature.
It could have been, maybe, I don't know. But for me, I was like, this has got to be fate. So it takes him about 2 weeks to convince me to go to Ohio.
Yeah.
Did he tell you like what's going on, or what is his pitch to get you out there?
So I was going to go on out there, learn the business and learn what he was doing. And then we were going to make a satellite office back home. So I was only supposed to come there for, the first phone call was come there for maybe like a week. Second phone call turned into a month. By time he finally convinced me to go there, I was there for 3 months. I was locked in for 3 months, which was probably so he knew it could help them get back on the right track. But it was just, come on out here. You'll make a killing. Let's, I know you can sell. Just come on out here and help me out. He goes, we got a girl here managing right now. She's just not good. I'll make you a manager immediately, and we'll just ride this wave. I was like, all right, cool. So I get out there.
They're going under.
Oh yeah, they're going under. But he didn't tell me that right away. But I found out shortly after getting him. So I get there. He's like, all right, yeah, here's these people. He's only got like 3 people, 4 people, maybe 5 people that are actually doing the sales portion of it. And then he's got 3 or 4 people that are calling everybody and saying, hey, we noticed that you own property. Do you want to sell it?
Right.
And
so he's calling people that have vacant land.
Yep.
And he's convincing them to let these guys sell the vacant land. He's promising them a bunch of money for the land. So he's just the in-between.
Yeah. So yes and no, because basically what we were is 100% for sale by owner. We were just an advertising company.
Right.
We would advertise the property, but we would tell these people that had come to find out they got scammed way back in the 80s on buying this property through there was some other scam that was going on. So
they think it's going to be developed, or so it's basically
correct. So
right.
we call them up and tell them, listen, we can property that's worth like $300. Hey, listen, we think we can get you $80,000. We're going to advertise it for that, $180,000. So now they're, whoa, okay.
So you just see this stuff all the time where it's like, it's real property. It's really here. It's really zoned where like you could actually develop it, but there's no access to the property.
Correct.
Like there's a road here. There's another property here. There's undeveloped land here, but there's no access to it. Like
right.
You'd have to build. Yeah, you can build on it. This much, it'd be worth this much. Of course, you guys have to build the road.
Yep.
What? Build the road. Yeah, you have to put in the sewer. You got to build it to spec. You have to build it to code for the state code. You got to put in all the drainage, all the electric, all the plumbing, you get all that done, and your property's worth $80,000. You're like, how much does the road cost? Oh, that's about $2.5 million.
Right. But none of that stuff was obviously disclosed because it's a for sale by owner. We're the advertising firm. What you're going to do is advertise it with us.
Right.
And then once somebody calls us and says, hey, I have a buyer, then what we'll do is we're going to put the two of you guys together.
Right.
We're not a real estate firm. And these are all things that we did disclose. So I'm there for about an hour. I'm like, okay, this is easy. I pick up the telephone. I think by the time my third call came, on that one call, I did more money than their entire room did the previous week. So I think it was like $498 is what I told the guy that we're gonna do your property for. So after
what do you mean
we're going to advertise his property for $498. So they have to pay us up front to advertise. So it's just very similar to if you wanted to sell your bicycle in the newspaper. What you got to do is you have to advertise it in the newspaper and you got to pay for it. And then hopefully somebody calls you up and you can sell it.
Right.
So that's what we were doing, is just calling them and telling them that we're going to advertise the property. So I charged this gentleman $498. And then it has to go to the verification process where they actually record it and they say, you do know it's not sold. We're not a real estate agent, all this stuff. And I happened to be outside on the front porch with the owner smoking a cigarette. And the girl who's doing the verification, she comes out and she goes, hey, he said he's got 2 properties. Is that for one or for both? I go, that's for one. Then I go back in there. Oh, no. Actually, I charged him $1,298 for the first one. And then I go back on the phone. I said, sir, I got great news. $498 for the second property. He goes, oh, okay, perfect. So now, it's like $2,000 that I charge the guy. And of course, I made a percentage of that. I can't even remember at that time what my percentage was. So I was like, this is easy.
Right.
So now this whole advertising vacant undeveloped land and all that stuff in Florida was huge at the time.
I hate to interrupt the program, but if you didn't know, my name is Matthew Cox, and I spent 13 years in prison for title theft. And this is how easy title theft is. I can be sitting in a Starbucks with my computer. I can go online, go to public records, get your address, name of the homeowner. I can create a deed, a satisfaction of mortgage. I can file that satisfaction of mortgage. I can then transfer the name of your home into someone else's name, or I can simply create a driver's license in the true homeowner's name. I can then sell the home or borrow against the home, and I can do all of that online sitting in Starbucks. I can apply for the mortgages online. I can open up the bank accounts online. I can go to the closing online. I can have all the documents notarized online, and I can have all of the money wired into my bank accounts online. I can then transfer that money out of those accounts to other accounts, or maybe I could buy precious metals, I could buy diamonds, and I can have all of that delivered anywhere I want by sitting in Starbucks. That's how easy it is to commit this crime now. And it's happening more and more every single day. If you think that you're not vulnerable, you're dead wrong. Do you know who's a potential victim of this crime? Anybody that owns a house. Anybody that thinks I can't be a victim is just absolutely dead wrong. I'm telling you right now, if you own a piece of property, you are a potential victim. The only way to stop the crime is to be notified by a monitoring service like Home Title Lock. Home Title Lock monitors your property records, alerts you of any changes, and if you are a victim, they jump in with their team of restoration experts to resolve the issue. You can get a 30-day free trial of their triple lock protection and a complimentary title history report by going to HometitleLock.com and using promo code MATT30, or click on the link in the description box. Don't let someone like me catch you off guard.
But there's so many regulations here in the state of Florida for telemarketing. So the reason why he went to Ohio was because it's unregulated. You just get your DBA and you're in business.
Right.
So now basically the manager is there. She's gone. I start doing this. Well, then I come to find out what these guys were doing in Florida, where they were putting it on their websites, but they were advertising the land with the homeowner's name and the phone number. So then when I was like, these people already paid.
Yeah.
They're definitely going to pay again. So I'd go on everybody else's websites and we would call them and say, hey, you're looking to sell your property. Yep. And if they're said 60,000, I really think maybe we could get you like 80,000 for your property. Like, oh, really? Yeah. Well, it's going to cost you this amount. Oh, okay, perfect. And they would just pay again. So, I was there for about 2 weeks. The owner, him and his wife, they were, like I said, very rocky terms. He decided, you know what? I'm out of here. And he leaves and goes to Georgia because there's another gentleman who is in Georgia that had the same exact business. So what he did was he went down there and he basically took the whole database that he had and he started calling all those people. So at this whole time that I'm there in Ohio, I'm calling all these people. Personally, I think that everything I was doing in Ohio was legit.
Okay.
Now, the owner, he now takes the database and he goes down to Georgia and starts calling all these people and saying, hey, listen, I got great news. Got your property sold. You just got to pay half the closing costs, pay that up front, blah, blah, blah. He makes this whole spiel.
But that's not, he doesn't have it sold.
He does not. He's actually working for another company that does the exact same thing that we do. So he was sending out the same contract that we were sending out that states it's just advertising. So he was just getting these people to sign it and send it back, but charging a lot more money. But in his mind, it's not my company.
Right.
And then for me, what my thought process was, whatever he's doing, that's on him. That's got nothing to do with me. I'm here and I'm doing this. So.
But you're now running his old company.
I'm running his old company, his wife and I.
Okay.
So we were doing everything I felt as legit as possible. I mean, we had attorney general complaints that, they paid, the property didn't get sold, all these things. But every single one of them was answered. Attorney general said, yeah, you know what? You're perfectly fine. You're doing everything okay. So in between these times, Ted comes back home to Ohio, could have been for a couple of weeks or, month, whatever it was. So him and I were sitting there one night and we're like, man, how can we make some more money? So I'm like, I can't remember if it was his idea or my idea, but we said VIP. So everybody who has already signed up, we'll call them up and tell them, listen, we got a VIP package that we'll put you on. And instead of them being on the other part of the website and the inventory, they're going to be right on the front page of our website, all this kind of stuff, which was just a link basically to then get to the other page that was on there. So now we're calling all these people. Great news. We've got the VIP package. Things are starting to ramp up. We were telling people that we were doing these seminars, which he was doing seminars before I got there. And you look at some of his seminars that he was doing, there's like 3 people in the audience,
right?
But you couldn't see them. And they were workers that worked for him. A suit that was like 6 times too big. It just, you could just tell it probably wasn't. But I mean, we're not lying. We did do a seminar before.
Right. Are any of these properties selling?
Nah, I don't think one ever sold ever the whole time. That was it.
People pay $400.
But here's the thing, though: we weren't selling property; we were advertising the property. So that's how me in my own mind I was justifying it. Is like, I don't really care if these people's property ever sell, because one of the rebuttals were, well, what happened? Like, like what if it doesn't sell? Well, folks, it's just like if you advertised your old rusty bicycle that you have in the garage in the newspaper for 7 days and it doesn't sell, can you call the newspaper back and say, I'd like my money back because it didn't sell? No. But you're paying for a 90-day advertisement. And if it doesn't sell in those 90 days, we are going to continue to advertise the property until it sells for no extra charge.
That doesn't make sense. That's just so basically you're just putting it on on the website. There is no 90 days. It's going to stay there till it.
But when yes, it doesn't make sense to you or to I or, to the, I guess maybe to our type of mind. But at the same time, when you're pitching it on the telephone, it's for a 90-day advertising. But if it doesn't sell in those 90 days, we'll continue to advertise it until it sells. So It's really unlimited, unlimited advertising. But
And what's the advertising? Is just on your website? It's just listed? Like, is there any cost to actually?
You're not paying Google to fucking to direct people there. You're not doing any marketing.
Nope, it's literally 100% on our website, and that's it. But
it's just a website.
It's just a website that he built, and then we would have the girl in the office or somebody there in the office. They would go on and they would find the parcel. They'd make a description of it, and they would put it right on the website. So we were doing what we said we were doing because it is being advertised, but most people probably thought it was going to be a lot more advertising than what it was. So illegal, probably not. Unethical, probably so. So now at this point, I start to go back and forth from Ohio to New York because I still have my girlfriend there, but then the receptionist, who was 19 years old, her and we started to chat a little bit. And I was 23, 24, something like that, maybe 25. And I think I was like 25. So we started chatting it up. So that really wasn't going that well, but it was going well. But my home life was falling apart at the same time. So I come back home and back to New York. And then I would tell them, I'm going to go for like maybe a couple weeks, but I'd stay there back home for like 3 months. Then I'd come back, make a couple more dollars, and I'd go back. And at this whole time, I'm still doing everything that I thought was legit. So then I go back home now because now she's going to have the baby, my girlfriend. She's going to have the baby because now she's pregnant again. Or not again, but she's pregnant. So I'm going to have another child again. And my plan was to go home, hang there for a week, wait until I knew everything was okay, and then go back and then maybe bring her there, possibly, maybe. But that was going to be very hard because the receptionist was still there. So I was living 2 different lives, one in Ohio and then one at home.
Now, how much money are you making?
At this point, I was making okay money, maybe $3,000 a week. It was okay.
Not
money.
Bad.
Yeah, it was okay money.
That'd be $12,000 a month. $12,000 a month in Florida right now that's a ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. But then there would be weeks where I just didn't care, and I'd make $500, $600, $700. But eventually, I negotiated that I was getting paid off of the whole room. So the whole room had to make X amount of dollars. I was getting a salary. So I eventually negotiated a pretty okay money, but there would be. I got the big check-itis where last week, I get a real big check. This week, screw it. I can live off of that plus whatever. So now my son's born, my second son. And when he's born, immediately as soon as I held him, I just looked at his mom and said, yeah, I'm not going back. Just not going to happen. So I decided, well, all right, I'll just start my own room here. So the way it worked is if you paid over the phone, I couldn't get a credit card merchant because I didn't have enough time with the business or anything like that. So I couldn't get a merchant to be able to take credit cards over the phone. And this is well before Apple Pay and, all that kind of stuff and Venmo. So they would give me their routing and account numbers, and I would go to Staples and get the 3 checks that were there, and I would have to input it, their routing number, their account number. So technically it was still a check.
Yeah.
And I would go and deposit it into the business bank account, and I would get $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 at a time or in a week or something like that and deposit it. But then what the customers were doing is they were saying, I never wrote that check. And because there's not their signature or anything like that, I was getting overdrawn like crazy. It just didn't work out for me the way I wanted to. I went and got this office, hired some people, thought it was just going to be great and all this stuff. And I was just going to do it with just checks and I'd be okay. And it just didn't work out. So at this point now, my son's mom and I, we decide, you know what? Maybe we'll move to Florida. So I get a call from Ted's wife, and because she hears that I might be getting ready to move to Florida, she's like, all right, listen, so what we'll do, I'll have you come on down here to Florida, and we'll just use cell phones, because they still had the office still in Ohio, but it was just running on fumes. It just was nothing. So I come down to Florida, and now we're using cell phones, calling people, saying that all the same stuff that we're supposed to be saying. But Ted, the owner on the side, he is still working for other people. Now the other place is shut down. There's another one. Now he's working for another guy. And so I would do the legit stuff that I thought during the day. And then at night, we'd call people and say, hey, got great news. Your property is already sold. You got to pay half the closing costs and all this stuff. And we just started basically lying to people. So I feel for my own self I feel a lot of the stuff that I did in Ohio, legal, unethical, sure. But then once I came back down to Florida, they were supposed to open up their own store or their own office here in Florida. And I was going to run that. We still to this day have never opened up that office because, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I mean, what happened when you tell somebody, hey, the closing costs are $1,000. You got to pay $500 up front. They send you the $500 and there's never a closing.
Yeah, so that's because
I'm assuming at some point within a week or so, they're like, when are we closing?
Oh yeah, no. The closings didn't happen in a week. It was most of the time it was like 45, 60 days because we've got to get all the paperwork. We're backed up, all this kind of stuff. So when they were calling them originally and selling them, we got the closing.
Right.
And we're getting ready to. You got to pay half the closing costs, which half the closing costs is $3,000. That's their portion. It's $3,000. It's really $6,000. We've convinced the seller or the buyer to pay the other. So your closing date. So if we're at, we just make up a date 30 days from now. And yep, that's the date that you're going to close. So they're getting all excited. When that date comes, oh yeah, you know what? Nope, we're not ready yet. And we just continue to keep pushing and
spinning
pushing
them for 60, 90 days.
Correct.
At some point, though, don't they have to say, hey, you know what, send me my money back? Who are these buyers?
Well, yes and no. So what happens is there's all of these different companies, and Ted convinces people to start opening up these companies and he'll work for them because he's like the man at doing this. So now what happens is if I call you and I say, hey, Matt, listen, I got your property sold. You got to pay half the closing costs. Okay, yeah, sure. Then they pay. So now that's the ABC company. Now I call you from XYZ company. Say, man, I got bad news. Unfortunately, that buyer closed down, but I got good news. I've got a new buyer for you, but I got even better news. They're willing not to $80,000. They're willing to pay $120,000. We're also going to get you a refund for the closing from that company. Could take some time to get that refund, but to get you the 120, we got to have you pay the closing cost here for this one. So now we're double, triple dipping, for, different people and different companies. But then,
It's horrible.
And, does it ever? And then they just get strung along. Strung along for as long as we can possibly string them along. I don't think we've ever refunded anybody.
No. Did you ever get phone calls from the police? I mean, at some point, these guys people have to go to the cops and be like, listen.
Not one time.
Holy shit.
Never. The cops never called us.
No lawyers? They never got their lawyers?
Nothing at all. And of course, the media portrays it as this, only talking to old people and this and that. They got no idea. They don't want to. It was everybody. If their name was on the list,
right,
they were getting a call. We couldn't tell if the person was 90 years old, 70 years old, or 20 years old.
Right.
We couldn't tell. And don't get me wrong, majority of them were older. And I think more that they were older is because they had got scammed when they were 20, when they originally had bought this property, thinking that it was going to get developed originally. But,
did you ever have anybody that you had to give the money back? Or
no, I don't think we ever gave anybody back their money for that. Not at all.
Did you have people call up just pissed, yelling, screaming, or?
Yeah, but we're sales guys. We just schmooze them over and give you a call back tomorrow, let you know what's going on. Then you call them up and got great news. Something happened with that buyer.
Is there any particular ones that you've been able to like double up multiple times? Like this is the second buyer canceled, but now I got a third one.
Yeah. So in my discovery, they got text messages, me in New York and then Ted here. And and there's a whole ring of guys that were doing this, and we're all exchanging names and telephone numbers. Yeah, I signed this guy up. He's already bought twice, and then somebody else is hitting him up, and so that's how they got us for conspiracy, because we were all conspiring,
right,
to scam these people, each and every one. But so. My wife told me to make sure I sound very remorseful and not to be laughing.
No.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
That doesn't make for a good episode. You can be very remorseful, but it has to be the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I know this is wrong.
Yeah.
And I was in a bad spot.
No, it wasn't. It's not like that. Even to today. I mean, I laugh about it because it's as weird as it is and as cliche as it is. I wouldn't take none of it back.
Right.
No, I just wouldn't, because if I did, then I probably wouldn't be. I would have found something else to do.
Yeah.
I would have found something else to do and figure it out, because that's just I'm the easy way out kind of guy. But so now I come down to Florida, and we're just now. It got to a point to where we just said, screw Ohio altogether. We're just going to 100% call everybody. And we're just calling all these people and saying, hey, listen, we got your property sold. Congratulations. So we're going to do this. So after getting them a couple of times, so now back to your question is, how did we string them along? You know what? We forgot you got to pay the capital gains tax. So now you have to pay the capital gains tax on The property, sorry about that. That's our fault.
Nobody's more upset about this than me.
Correct.
I know you're upset. Me too. Me too. I told Bob. That's why Bob doesn't work here anymore, by the way.
Absolutely. And you wouldn't believe how many times I would pay on the phone and say, you know what? I'm not really sure. Hold on. Let me grab a manager. Yep. And it's just me. All I did was switch ears and switch. So now you got to pay capital gains tax. And it got to a point to where we weren't even working for anybody anymore.
Right.
It was just Ted and I sitting on his back porch, smoking cigarettes, wandering around in his yard, and calling people off of 7 different cell phones that we both just had sitting in front of us, burner phones. And now they're sending us money via Western Union and MoneyGram. So no longer checks, credit card, none of that stuff. So we were just like, well, you got to send it to us through Western Union. Why do we got to send it through Western Union? It's the fastest way for us to get the monies, and we don't have to worry about anything, with the electronic. Would you rather get the money faster, or do you want us to wait? So it just got to a point to where we were just literally calling people, and he still had his office here in Florida where we were going to open up. So now we're just sitting in there, him in one office and me in another office. And I would have friends of mine and friends of his go around all day long to Western Union and to MoneyGram, picking up these money. So if you were going to go pick it up, I'd send it in Matt Cox's names. They're like, well, who's that? Well, he's the owner. He's the assessor. He's the, whatever it was. And they're like, well, why are we sending it to him? Well, because it's Western Union MoneyGram. You can't send it in businesses. And we were getting, it was just a ridiculous amount that we were getting a week through Western Union MoneyGram. I don't even think to this day I'm allowed to use Western Union or MoneyGram.
What's so funny is, like, as he's talking about this, I'm thinking to myself, like, how could you even hold them off even longer? Like, to me, holding them off even longer would be like, once you get them once and you get them twice, then you could say, hey, you could set up like a fake title company, which would just be like an email address with a website and a phone number. And then you could actually print up like a disclosure, a set of disclosures and a set of like a HUD statement, a closing statement, and then mail it to them, tell them they have to get it notarized, mail it back. And then when they say, oh, when do I get my check? Well, you signed it. We have to have the buyer sign it. So we're mailing it to the buyer, mailing it back. Okay, now that we've got it, all right, so we've got it. We're waiting for their lender to fund the money. Like, you could drag that out another 3 weeks, maybe even a month.
Yeah.
Then you could even mail them a check that they could deposit into their bank account. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then that takes, of course, their bank account probably looks good for about a week or two. And then, of course, it bounces. And then, of course, that starts the whole thing. What do you mean it bounced? That was our escrow account. Hold on. Let me get in touch with Todd. I'm going to have Todd call you back. You drag it off another week. Like, you could drag that out 6 weeks before they finally realize, like, oh my God, this is all a scam. But that's another 6 weeks. Then you shut everything down, start it up all over again, do it with a whole new set of people.
We weren't, at this point, we weren't even, he had a name for a second LLC. So if somebody Googled it, which was Nationwide Land Sales.
Right.
So what I would do, they would call, where are you calling from? Nationwide. Nationwide is on your side.
Right.
And I would say that jingle.
Right.
But I never said I was Nationwide Insurance.
Right.
So immediately, though,
it gives credibility.
It just gives the credibility. So even though I never said I was Nationwide Insurance,
right,
which I obviously I knew what I was doing.
Right. It's not my fault if they made that leap.
It's not my fault.
Oh, is that what you thought I meant? Oh, God, I'm so sorry.
Yep.
That's my fault.
Yep, I apologize. So we started just getting, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars a week in Western Union. And so now you got to pay your property gains tax. Then I can't remember, and I've been trying for years to remember what it was is one day I was just on the phone and I just pulled it out of thin air. Well, you got to pay, and I can't remember what I called it, but what you do is you have to pay because you have to cross over somebody else's property to get to yours.
It's an easement.
Yeah, but I just called it.
You made up a name.
I made up a name for it. And so now you have to pay for that now because we have to get permission to cross their property to get to yours, to even do the assessment and the land survey and all that. So we can't just walk across their property.
Right.
And they're like, oh, okay. And so we just started, we just were continuing to make up all sorts of different fees that they had to continue to keep paying to drag it out. And we just did that for a long time, for a few months.
It's funny. I met a guy in prison, which is where typically prior to this podcast is where I met people like yourself. And he had worked a phone room where they were selling timeshares.
Yeah.
And then eventually he quit or got fired. I forget what it was. And he was in New York, and he would go. He eventually, when he left one of the jobs, he got the list. They had a list. Like he's like, I knew where they had the list. They would give us the phone numbers to call or whatever. And he was like, it wasn't on a dial system. Like you're dialing these people and you're explaining that, or you're trying to sell them. He's like, well, I got the list. You know what they were doing? They were selling timeshares for people that already had timeshares.
Yeah.
So we're listing it on your site. The same thing. We're going to list it on our website. We're going to advertise to try and get it sold. We do seminars, all the same, that basic scam. They pay $400, $1,000. So what he did was he went and got that list when he got the list and he got fired, or he quit and knew he was quitting. Somehow or another, he got the list. And he said, what's funny is you could call other phone rooms and get the list of people they'd already called, and you could buy that list. He goes, which for nothing.
Correct.
So he said, I had went and got a couple cell phones, he and a couple other guys. And he said, we started calling those, but he said, we changed it. But he said, because that was like a legitimate, like you're saying, like kind of like a legitimate thing where we're putting it on the website. Like we know what you expect, but that's not what's really happening. We're putting it on a website that nobody ever goes to. We're not advertising the website. Like we know you're not going to sell it. And in the phone, he's like, you did okay. He's like, he made like couple thousand a week doing that. And he said, but then when he got the list, he said, what we decided to do was like, how can we do this so that it doesn't come back on us? He goes, so one, we get burner phones. Okay. He said, and two, we started calling the list. But what we did was they would call these people and say, hey, listen, I noticed that, he said, and keep in mind too, we could look it up and see like they were behind. They hadn't paid their association dues in like 5 years or something. Like they owe like $20,000 in association dues. You'd call them up and we'd say, hey, and he was like, initially they kind of think you're like a collection agent. We're calling about this property, and they'd be like, oh yeah, what about that property? I don't want nothing to do with that, brother. They're like, no, sir, the building's been sold. The closing is in about 2 weeks, and he said. They're like, oh, okay. They're like, well, you still own the building. The deed is in your name. So we're calling to let you know because the building it's going to become condos or be bulldozed. They're putting up Trump towers, whatever it is.
Right.
And he says, they're like, you bought that property for $80,000. Well, it's been assessed based on the new sale of the building at $140,000. You're going to make $60,000. Here's the issue. Is that and he said it would be different. Sometimes we'd say, look, but we can't sell it because you're $20,000 in arrears.
Right. So
you have to pay the $20,000, and they go, oh, well, can't you just take it out? He's like, no, listen, you don't seem to understand. Like and he would say he was an attorney. I'm an attorney. We're doing one of two things. We have to, by law, we have to give you the option to pay the arrears. Or we're filing like a suit for quiet title, and we're just going to take the property from you. You'll get nothing. Now, granted, you won't owe or no, I think you say you still owe the $20,000, or you wouldn't, whatever it was. The point is that if you pay us the $20,000, then I can get you the $60,000.
Right.
But I can't do it simultaneously. You have to pay first. And they would go, like, oh my God. And he's like, you understand. So he said these people would pay 12,000, 14,000, 20,000, 10,000. And this guy was vicious. He would laugh. He'd go, oh God, man. He'd go, the old people are the easiest. And he would laugh about it. And he had this laugh that was so cringe. It was so, he's like, it was like, you get this, like, you're like, oh God, you're like, you give, and I used to tell him, like, you give con men a bad name.
Yeah.
You go, I know, right? And it was like, and he had a big nose, and he was so, he was just grimy. You know what he looked like? One of the guys on the Beastie Boys.
Oh yeah.
Just, so like trolls. And so anyway, what happens is he was telling me this, and he would laugh about it, and he'd say, so I go, well, where do you get the 20,000? Where did they say the 20,000? He goes, listen to this. He goes, this is how we got busted. Funny you say that because you asked that, because this is how we got busted. So he goes, keep in mind, we're going to clubs in New York.
Yeah.
Because we're pulling up in limos and, Hummer limos and like all these. He goes, and you've heard this before. And he's like, we're getting out, and we go, and we're buying. We got VIP. We're buying. They're just really living it up. He's like, well, because of that, because we're spending money. He's like, girls like come to you right away. We're dancing with these hot fucking chicks. They're amazing looking, and they'd be like, what do you do for a living? And I tell them, I said, we sell this. We do. Because I just tell them it's a scam. We run scams. And the girls would say, well, God, man, how can I make some money? How can I get it on it? He go, look, you want to make some money? Here's what we'll do. He goes, you got a bank account? Yeah. Well, here's what we'll do. We'll put the money, we'll have them send you money. You just cash out the money and give us the cash. And we'll give you 20% or 30% or 50%, whatever it was. And of course, they're thinking, oh my God, like, he's like, and then, and if they said something like, will the cops show up, or will I get in trouble? They go, well, when they show up, you just say, I met some guy in a fucking bar. And he told me that to let him, he said he's going to wire some money to me, and I had to cash out the money and give him the money. And I just thought I was doing a favor for a friend. He's like, you can get my cell number and everything, my name, everything. Because keep in mind, he already knows that they don't know his name.
Right.
I've already introduced myself. I knew this was coming way before you. I told him your name. My name was Dan, whatever, Bradley. And I'll give you my cell phone number. You just have them call me, and, they're not going to arrest you. And which is funny too, because they typically don't.
Correct.
Like typically the money went in, I cashed out, I got 12 grand over the course of 2 days. I cashed out the money, and I gave you 8,000 or 10,000, and I kept 2. And he's like, I go, don't the girls ever take off with you? Because we've had a couple girls take off.
Of course.
What we explained to him is that we're going to do this over and over and over again. He said, they're not stupid. He's like, they think I could make $100,000 in a month. But yeah, I have to cash out and give them 200, but I'll still make 100 or whatever their cut is. Like, it'd be stupid for me to take the first $10,000 and not hold out the month for the 100. He goes, and as soon as they see it once, most of them say, okay. And they're not drug addicts,
right.
Like they're drug addicts. They'll just take the 10
They'll
and
just
run.
take it and run.
So anyway, he's doing this, and here's what happens is one of his buddies, he's like, you understand, we never took them to our houses. They never knew our names. They never had a real cell phone, our real phone numbers. They had the number we gave them. He said, this was something we did on a weekly basis. So we're getting these girls every week. We're getting at least 1 or 2 girls, and we're just having these people wire the money to their accounts. And then they're cashing it out over the course of several days, over and over again. Sometimes the bank accounts get shut down because the bank says something's weird. You'd have hundreds of thousands of dollars going to your account. Sometimes we'd have them go out and open a couple accounts, and they do it on multiple accounts. He isn't, we lose some money. He's like, but what does it matter if you're making 300,000 and you only ended up with 150 of the 300,000? What does it matter? He's like, we're barely even working.
Yeah, who cares?
Anyway, the point is one of the guys, he's like, hooks up with a girl, falls in love with her.
Ugh.
Eventually tells her what his real name is, brings her back to his house. And the FBI shows up at her place 3 months later, because she does it for like 100,000. They shut off the accounts, everything. 3 months later, FBI shows up. She immediately gives him up, brings him to the guy's house. They grab the guy. He gives up this guy. This guy ends up going to prison and listen, it was millions. It wasn't like $500,000. I mean, it was like in the millions. Like, he's got like $1, $2, $3 million. And he owed like $3 million, and he got like 4 years or something like that. And I mean, I would love to get him on the podcast, because he wasn't just unremorseful, which is fine. I have no problem with it if you're not remorseful because I understand the mindset. He delighted in it. He loved what he had done. He had so many stories of people. Oh, I'm going to call my financial manager. He'd be like, what? You don't need to call your and he'd argue with these old people, the financial manager would call and he'd explain the whole situation. The financial manager, who's just a finance manager, doesn't have a fucking clue.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, that sounds reasonable. Like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't sound reasonable at all. But he doesn't know the laws in Florida. He doesn't know real estate law. He's a financial manager. You know what I'm saying? Like I buy stocks and I buy annuities and I manage your stock portfolio. I don't know anything about real estate in Florida.
Yeah, how it all works.
Right.
out.
And this kid he would rattle off his spiel. And I'm sitting here with him wearing prison greens in a fucking in a prison unit, sitting in my cell. And I thought, fuck, this guy sounds convincing. Like I know real estate inside and out, and damn, he had a spiel. I mean, I was like, you're good. You're good. Like I was like, wow. And he had so many horrific stories about clipping these people once and then going back and getting them again and then getting them again. And I was like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. He's like, he's like, oh, you don't understand. This guy he worked in a warehouse and he made good money. And yeah, I got that guy for $25,000. The first time I got him for $6,000. The next time I got him for $12,000. The next time I got him for $4,000. It was like a total of like $22,000. He's like, yeah. And eventually he would have kept paying. He just didn't have any more money. I was like, because he would do the same thing. It'd be something else and something else and something else. Now you got to pay the lawyer fee and now you got to pay this fee.
Yeah, we had those too where, just the people would they'd still pay today.
Right. Because to them, they thought, these people thought they were getting 50 grand or 60 or 80 grand.
Yeah, it's worth it.
He said it typically broke down when they would start to go to family members to get the money. And then the family member would go, the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
You want to borrow $8,000. How much have you paid these people? Well, I've already paid them this much money. He's like, and they'd get on the phone with me and we'd start arguing. They'd be like, this is a scam. And I'd be like, fuck. And I'd hang up the phone and he would just laugh and laugh about it. It's funny because thinking about him laughing makes me want to laugh, even though he was such a horrible, horrible individual. I mean, he was just the worst.
Do you know where he lives now?
He was from New York. He was a typical New Yorker. I mean, he was very, no offense.
No.
Very, very just, a New York con man that unrepentant, unremorseful. He was one of those guys that would, the cops would go and during count, when they count everybody, right?
Yeah.
So they're walking through count and you have to be completely quiet. And somebody would say something. And then like he would say something. He'd drop something. And then he'd go, and the cops would be like, who said that? Who said that? He'd be like, go fuck your mother. And they'd be like, who the fuck? And the cops would go nuts because they're on a power truck.
Oh, yeah.
And they'd scream and holler and they'd walk up and down. And then they'd be like, okay, well, guess what? You're staying in your cells the rest of the fucking night. You're not watching TV. You're not this. So now the other guys are like, yo, bro, you better fucking, you want to mouth off that? And then he's like, fuck them. It's like, no, you're fucking all of us
everybody
now.
else, correct.
And then he eventually, that happened like a couple times with this guy. He was that kind of a jackass. He thought it was funny. And eventually, these guys are literally like the cops are like, I'm going to count the next fucking cell or the next unit. And they leave knowing the other inmates are going to step to this guy. And listen,
correct.
5 or 6 guys walk in front of his fucking cell and say, we'll beat your fucking ass if you don't fucking, he'd be like, he'd cower. He'd been one of those guys he's 6'2" when he's on the telephone, but in front of you, he buckles.
Yeah.
He's just a jackass.
Do you know, do you have like an idea of how much, like what's the most that you've been able to string along one person for? Like a ballpark?
Man, I think the one was like 37 grand.
And how much do you think how much do you think their property was worth, like actually?
couple $100.
Yeah.
God. Oh my
Just a
God.
few $100. It was-
To the money thing, does having all that money come through Western Union, does that not bring up red flags?
Well, he's having it go to different people.
yeah, different people. I did have the
Okay. Yes.
the core people.
Okay. Sorry. Sometimes I miss some details because I'm like writing down notes of like TikToks and stuff. So
So if he's constantly having kind of having different people go, then at some point Western Union might be like, this guy has received $40,000 in a month, and
Yeah.
he's coming here and he's getting it out in cash. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
And then they might flag you and say, no, you can't come back.
And then we would run into people going to MoneyGram or Western Union and saying, yeah, I got to send this money. They're like, well, what's it? Do you know who they? Well, no, they just called me and I don't really think you should. And there's been times where I was on the phone with
Western
the Western Union or the MoneyGram person. And
They're
sometimes they'd be like, nah, screw off. I don't think you should do this. And other times I convince the MoneyGram or Western Union employee that it's none of their damn business.
Right.
And then they're like, yeah, actually, you know what? This does sound okay.
Yeah.
And then they would.
Have you gone to the website? Are you interested in property?
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. All that kind of stuff. You know, next thing you know, you just start making small talk with them.
What's so
nationwide? Yeah.
What's so I was gonna say, if you use the same logo, if you use some similarities, people would think.
Yeah. And and that was really just it. You know, if you get somebody else on the phone, you know, once I one day just was like, Nationwide is on your side. I was like, this is perfect. You know,
I had
gonna be great.
So one time I was buying houses in an area and I would renovate the house. I'm buying these houses for $60,000 and I'd go and renovate it. They were really, honestly, most of them were already renovated, but they were just shitholes. Like renovated badly, going for 60, 70,000. Like they're just horrible houses. But if you took a photo from the outside, like it's got vinyl siding on it.
Yep.
It's got new carpet. I mean, are the floors cockeyed? Yes. Are the caulk this much caulk between the, you know what I'm saying, like the Home Depot kitchen?
Yep.
That's in there. It's all level and everything, but I mean the floors are wavy. They've got linoleum down, new linoleum. But so for a photograph, it looked okay. But if you walked in there. Yeah, if you dropped a soccer ball on the floor, it'd roll to the corner. You know, these are bad houses. And so I bought these from a shitty guy who renovated houses. He did a shit job.
Yep. So
what I did was I went around the whole area and I put up these signs that said Nashville Restoration Project. And then I put the website on the side of the sign. These were big. These are like maybe 30 inches by 48 inches, and they're the vinyl siding, and I would put like a metal bar, you know, on the porch. So the signs they look very professional. And if you went to the website, there's a website. Well, the color scheme was exactly the same color scheme, font, everything for what's called a future comp plan. So every city has a comprehensive plan for their future developments. And that the city tries to help kind of say, hey, in this area, we'd like to make this a commercial area. This should be multifamily. This should be multi-use. Here's industrial. They try and gear it. And of course, they do zoning, but then they try and add incentives. For some areas, we're trying to get contractors to come in here and renovate this area. We want to make this a historic area.
Right.
So I put up these signs, and so if you went to my website, it was connected. I had all the links to their site. And so if you were in the renovation business or construction business or residential construction business, you thought this was connected with the city's future comp plan.
Yep.
And in that, I talk about how the projects, this was right next to projects in Nashville. And I talked about in there how the projects was scheduled they were going to start evacuating or, you know, basically removing people from that within a year. And within 2 years, the entire projects were going to be demolished and they were building a new residential area or neighborhood where they were, which is something they do. But this was absolutely not happening, by the way. But I put these signs all over these things, and I would buy these properties for $60,000, and I would record the sales for $200, $210, $215, $195, $180. So when I would have an appraiser come over and look at the property. He'd walk through the whole property, and I would say, so what do you think it's worth? Thinking, I don't know if he's going to buy it, right? Like there's tons of houses that are selling for $40,000, $60,000. And he goes, well, a year ago, I'd have told you this was worth about 50, 60 grand. And he said, but now that now that the Nashville restoration project has come in the area, he goes, it's worth at least 200. And I'd say you hold on to this, it's going to be worth about 350 in a year or so. You got a good deal. And I'd go, what's the Nashville restoration project? And he'd go, well, it's just one of these big developers. They come in. He goes, they came into Germantown about 10 years ago, renovated the entire area.
Which is
hilarious because I came up with this a month ago. It's not even really incorporated yet. I incorporated it 2 or 3 months later because it had such a buzz. And yet he had been to the website. He'd seen all the renovations. He'd seen all the properties. He'd read all about it. And so he's telling me, yeah, well, the property, he goes, the projects are coming down next year, don't you? I said, no, I didn't know that. He's like, oh yeah, yeah. And then he added, they went into Germantown, which was on the other side of Nashville about 10 years ago. He said, you can't buy anything over there for less than $500,000 to $1 million. I was like, wow, man, so what do you think this is worth? Oh, it's worth at least 200,000. Like, oh, okay. But you're right. But the connection for that credibility, and he was like, oh, they work with the city.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know how that way. Told me all about it. Everything he told me was on my website, except for the Germantown thing, which he added. I love that he added the fiction to it.
Right.
But it was great. I mean, you're right. It's that connection to something legitimate.
Yeah, because that's all it did is just give me credibility on that. So I was just like, I don't even know how the hell I thought about it. It just popped in my head one day and let's go with the jingle.
How long did you do this?
So at this point we did it, the Western Union, I think we might've did it for like 4 or 5, maybe 6 months.
Right.
On the Western Union. Cause I think it was, we were already under investigation at that time and we didn't know it.
How did they get onto you?
So the state of Ohio is, where everything had started. So they said that they had got a bunch of attorney general complaints, but at the same time, all of those attorney general complaints were all answered back that we're doing okay. So when he took the database from Ohio and brought it to Georgia and Florida, what I think happened is I think they just started to connect because now people are starting to call their own attorney generals and they're this company and that company. And now they're starting to, figure it out that it originated here, but what's really going on. So I think that they just started to see certain things, but we were under investigation for like 18 months before they ever came because, one day I'm supposed to go into work and
go to the porch.
Well, we're going to actually go to the office, but that day I think we're supposed to go to the office, but he's supposed to call me or shoot me a text and let me know when he's coming in. Well, it gets like 11:30, 12 o'clock. Still don't hear from him. I'm calling, texting. Nobody's answering, him or his wife. So I said, all right, well, whatever. So my girlfriend at the time, my son's mom, she went to the gym and it happened to be trash night the night before. So the trash can's still down at the road. She just calls me up. She say, I'm turning down the road right now. I'll be there in just a minute. I said, all right, no problem. So I'm just going to go get the trash cans. So I happen to go outside and I see this car drive by my house. I live on the cul-de-sac. And they turn around and then they park diagonal from my house, 2 or 3, probably about 2 houses down. She pulls in the driveway. I said, all right, get ready. Feds are here. I just knew. So she said, what? I said, yeah, you heard me. I said, let's get ready. She said, all right. So we, of course, the 2 guys pull up in the suits, which I didn't know it at the time. I just thought, the feds.
You still hadn't heard from your business partner?
Still had not heard from them.
The same day?
Same exact day. Okay. So they raided their house at like 6 a.m.
Right. So they're not calling because
they're not calling because they're not able to call. Okay. So 2 guys in suits, the BCU, the BCI, Bureau of Criminal Investigation, from the state of Ohio. They walk up, they're like, hey, can we come inside? Nah, we'll talk right here. What's up? What's going on? And the day before, I bought the huge DLP Mitsubishi TV, 83 inches. The box is still in the garage. I got the garage door open. The guy is like, puts his clipboard and everything right on the box, and we're talking. Now, my son's mom, she's all about the good fellas, about when they come, you know, they were spitting on the floor, and me, I'm asking, do you guys want water? So she's like, you guys want any water? You guys want coffee? I was just about to cook something. Are you guys hungry? Like, she's playing all of that, you know, that whole role. And I'm just answering, you know, they're asking me some questions about what's going on. And all of a sudden, I just feel my phone in my pocket. Zzz, 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 zzz. It's just, now it's going crazy in my pocket. I'm like, guys, I got to go to the bathroom. So I go inside. I'm getting pages, text 911, 911. I already know they're here right now. So I go back outside.
Who was that?
That's Ted and his wife calling and texting me. So I don't know how, I don't even know how the heck they even could text me, because they took like every electronic device. Maybe at that time when she was texting me, they hadn't confiscated their phones yet. But so they're there for like a half an hour, but it's more or less like a yes, no type answers is all I was giving them. And
did you work here? Yes.
Yep.
Did you?
Did you do? Yeah. Did you? No.
See anything illegal? No.
No. Right. So it was just a lot of yes or no questions. So now they're there, and I can't let them come in my house, because on my desk and on my counter, I've got thousands of Western Union receipts just sitting there. So if they walked in, I mean, immediately they would have seen it. But a little savvy at that age about letting people come on in and things like that. So I said, nah, we can chat right here. And plus, I'll let you guys sweat while you're sitting there out in the heat in your suits.
Right.
So we just kind of yes or no questions. I'm like, all right. So then they leave, and they're like, well, all right. So I'm like, all right, well, man, shit, we gotta wait. Man, that was a close call, but we're good to go.
No, you're not.
No, we're not. So I'm like, all right, we're good. They leave. They left us. We're good to go. But I'm never doing that shit again.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said. So now hours go by. Ted and his wife come there. Ted's real scrawny, not a very, I'm not going to fight you kind of, he's just not going to. So he comes to my house, because I still hadn't talked to them, but they come to my house, and he gets out of the car, and I'm mad at him for getting me into this mess. But, knowing he didn't get me, I could have walked away. I could have just said no, it wasn't him,
right.
That got me into it. So I just remember me just going, and saying something to him, and he just was like, and I was, dude, I really want to kick your ass right now, but just leave. So we talk for a couple minutes, and then, man, I never told anybody this either, is we still have the office that they can't get access to because none of us own it. So it's in an office building, so they have to wait for somebody to come get the key. Well, the laptop's in there.
Right.
Which there's a world of information on there. So he's like, dude, I need you to go to the office and get the laptop. I'm like,
and destroy evidence.
I'm like, are you kidding me? What am I going to go over there and they're going to be waiting outside? So I'm like, all right, yeah, sure. I'll go over there and get the laptop. So I figure out I'm going to wait the cops out. So I wait like 2 hours maybe. I do go over there. I don't know what happened to the laptop, but the laptop is
already missing.
No, it's not already missing, but I went in there. I got the laptop,
right.
And
statute of limitations. Is up.
Yeah.
You're
and plus, I already got in trouble. Yeah. So I went in there. I got the laptop, and I never gave him back the laptop.
Right.
And but the day before we had got they came to my house, came to his house. I was driving his vehicle and I had my book bag with my laptop in his car and I forgot it in his car that night. So they had my laptop because, but they came on into this house. They wanted to take his DVR, anything that had electronics, anything that was recordable. They took I think it was like $80,000 in gift cards because we would just buy gift cards and that's how we would give it out to like the guys who worked for us for, a spiff or whatever. Here you go. But I think it might have been like 20 grand. I don't know. It was an astronomical amount of gift cards. So they think like we're getting all this cash and we're just buying gift cards so that it's untraceable and all this stuff. I don't even know what we did with half the money.
Yeah, as I said, it's funny. You just reminded me. Remember the guy Rudy Arnott, the guy that I saw in the gym?
Oh yeah.
So this guy he used to work with me. He was one of these guys that he was actually listed on my indictment, but he never ended up getting arrested or anything. And it's funny because when I took off on the run, he went into the office and got the CPU, like I don't know how many he got, if he got multiple, because we had multiple computers. Maybe it was just his CPU. I don't know. And, it's for his, this is when, you had CPUs, the big, I don't know if they still have them, right?
The big box
big
next
box
to
thing.
the screen.
So he took it. He drove over to like the Courtney Campbell Causeway, like the bridge, stopped his car and threw it over. The problem is people driving over the bridge think that, it's a bridge with the Courtney Campbell Causeway. 90% of it it's only 3 feet of water.
Yeah.
So when they eventually talk to him and they ask him where his computer is, he says, I threw it over the bridge. They were like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah. They said, tell us where it is. So they actually sent out like a scuba diving team to go and get it. This is what the agent, the FBI agent had told me. That woman, Candace Calderon, she said, well, when they got it, she said, and they got it up. And she said there was actually a dead fish in it. So a fish had swum in there somehow. When they picked it up, it was still in there. So it ended up drowning and died. So they had taken the fish and put it in a like a mason jar and filled it up with water. And they stuck it on her desk. And so, and they had it all wrapped up and they were like, here's your CPU. It's there. We can recover nothing. And they were like, and here's the dead fish that was in the CPU. But yeah, so I can, it's funny, like throwing all the stuff, like people get nuts, like they get like, I'm gonna destroy it. Like, do you have any idea how much evidence is involved that they've already got?
Yeah, they've already got it all.
Yeah. So all you're doing is adding charges.
Correct.
Right.
So I don't even remember what I did with this laptop. I don't even remember. But so I go and take the laptop, and of course I'm like scared shitless. I'm just waiting to come out of there, and they're like, "Oh, what are you doing?"
Right.
Because now I got it outside of the building. I took it out of the building for them, and now it's in my possession. So I'm like, all right, well, screw this. I'm not doing this anymore. And then I said, well, you know what? Let me go get a job, which I haven't had a job now, a real job, in a few years. So I went to go back to selling cars because that's what I know. And I was there here in Florida for probably maybe 2 months. And I think I was just so worried to talk to somebody. Like maybe, who knows, maybe they're undercover and they're coming there to try to buy a car. And, so I just didn't sell anything the whole time I was there. Good thing they were giving me it was like a $750 a week salary, but I didn't sell anything. So finally, I get a phone call one day and they're like, hey, this is so-and-so from the BCI. I'm like, okay, what's up? What do you need? This is like probably 2 months later. And they're like, well, we want to talk to you. I said, all right, well, what's up? And they're like, no, we want you to come on in we're here in Florida, here in Tampa. I said, yeah, no, I don't think so.
I mean, they're in Tampa?
Oh, yeah. because they had already came here once, and then 3 months later, all of a sudden he's here in Tampa. Because when they raided the house and they came to my house to talk to me, I was living in Florida at that time.
Right.
So now I'm like, you're here? Okay, well, what's going on? They're like, well, we want you to meet us at the police station. I'm like, yeah, nah, I don't think so, because I've seen too many movies. I've seen too many. Like, once I go into there,
Right.
I'm not coming back out. I was like, if you want to meet in a random parking lot or something like that, they're like, yeah, no, that's probably not how we want to do this one. And I said, well, I think I'm just going to contact an attorney and see. And he goes, well, I'm going to tell you this. It really behooves you
Mm-hmm.
to get back a hold of me. Now, I've never been told this. I just had I have an assumption of what I think possibly maybe they were going to offer me immunity if I would have went there and talked to them that day, because they thought like I was like the kingpin of this whole thing. But I was, but I wasn't. I just fed off of somebody else's small-minded idea, and I was fuel to the fire.
Right.
And then the two of our minds together was very big. So, but as soon as I said a lawyer, they were like, "Oh,
we're done.
Okay, we're all done. Trying to talk to you." So now I'm like, this is getting kind of serious. I guess maybe we're not done. So I tell my girlfriend, my son's mom, I said, well, what we should probably do is move back to New York, because if they come here and they get me, she's now stuck here with my son and doesn't know anybody.
Right.
So we moved back to New York, and I get a job selling cars again. And something happens. At some point, I needed a job. For some reason, I didn't have a job. So I never really even contacted a lawyer. Never had the lawyer call them, because out of sight, out of mind. Whatever. I figured maybe it'll just go away if I don't think about it.
Right.
So I'm on my way to a job interview, and I'm speeding, and I get pulled over like 55 and a 30 or something like that through these back roads. And at the time, I didn't have a driver's license, I don't think, or something. But I haven't had a driver's license at times, and I know if it takes them a while, something's up. And then especially if another cop pulls up, something's definitely up. So immediately, every time I get pulled over, I got to get on the phone with somebody, because I'm just always just worried. So I'm on the phone with my girlfriend, and I go, this guy's taking like forever. And I'm not talking about, like, I was sitting there for, I think, like 30 minutes, 40 minutes before he ever came back to the car. Then all of a sudden, another cop goes up.
It's no good.
Then another one.
No, it's no
I'm
good.
like-
That's definitely an arrest.
I'm like, yeah, something's up. I said, this is where I'm at. And I'm like rattling it off really fast. So cop comes up to my door, and he says, now I didn't have my driver's license on me at the time. And he says, you got 6 felony warrants.
Only 6?
I said, not me, sir. I said, I've never been in trouble a day in my life. I said, you might be thinking of my father, but not me. Next thing you know, he rattles off my date of birth, my social. I said, yeah, that's me. I go, but I've never been in trouble a day in my life.
Not yet.
He goes, well, it's from, he said something, and he goes, in Ohio. I said, oh, I know what that is, but that's not me, sir. I didn't do anything. So the guy who owned the place, I think he was doing, I said, I think I'm probably okay. I got to get to this interview.
You don't seem to understand.
Yeah,
it
he
doesn't
was-
matter what you say.
Correct.
You're
And
coming down.
and I'm like, man, I'm a salesman. I'll get out of this. And then my thought was, in all of the short seconds, it was like, okay, all I got to do is get away from this guy, let him out of sight. I can bust my U-turn, go back home, get my clothes, and we'll go off to another city. And we'll be okay. Well, needless to say, I didn't he wasn't never out of my sight. So he was okay. He said, listen, I'm going to put the cuffs in front of you. First time ever I've got to sit in the front seat of the cop car and drove me over. It's just a little small town on where it was. So now we're there. And by now I get to the police station. My girlfriend gets there. He's got me handcuffed to the wall while sitting on a bench. And he's waiting for all of the information from Ohio. So, because I had a secret indictment. Everybody else was already arrested the day before for the most part. But I didn't know at all. Because if so, there's no way I would have left my house.
Right.
And speaking to people now, or after that, they said that every time they arrested somebody, they always asked where I was. So, and nobody knew where I was. So I wait for, I think it was like 37-page fax had to come through, which was the indictment.
Yeah.
And so I read it, and I can't remember all my charges. Really, I can only remember conspiracy and engaging of a pattern of corrupt activity.
Wire
No.
fraud.
Yeah, there was, I think there might have been wire fraud, engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, conspiracy, aggravated theft of $1.5 million or more. And there was two other ones.
Was money laundering?
Money laundering. Yep,
Definitely.
that was another one. Yep. That was definitely there. Yeah. So
I wonder if mail fraud was there, because I'm trying to think of all the things that would cover it. Definitely money laundering, because you guys are using people to go through the
correct.
Western Union. Definitely money laundering.
There might have been mail fraud.
Wire fraud, because you're having them wire the money to what. So those two are definitely. And then obviously conspiracy. And then I was trying to think. Sometimes they'll hit you with mail fraud, because that's a pretty general one. If you've mailed them anything,
and that might have been.
I want to say even if you emailed them anything, if you sent any emails or electronic stuff, I think that also is covered in mail fraud.
Yeah, and it would in that one there though, it's not really like it's like one of the lower end.
It is
felonies.
It's still a felony.
It's still a felony. Correct.
Still not, it's like saying when you tell somebody, you're just going to go to jail for 3 years. They're like, 3 years?
Yeah,
it's like, that's a minor fucking.
Yeah.
The bank fraud's fucking 20 years, 30 years.
So I'm sitting there, and by now my girlfriend's mom and dad know what's going on. And she's on the phone with them while we're sitting on this bench. And I remember I'm reading what my charges were to them. And I go, an aggravated theft of $1,500 or more. And the cop goes, no, sir, that's $1.5 million. Excuse me? But I just so happened to read it so fast. I was like, yeah, he goes, no, it's 1.5 million. I'm like, yeah, sir, again, I don't think that this is for me. And so now I've done prior to this, I've done like a weekend or an overnight. I got, just on stupid things, or I've gone into the jail there for a few hours and then I'm right out. So now they transport me over to the actual jail. So I go in and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, what in the hell is going on? They give me this jumpsuit. It's literally a black and white stripe, the jumpsuit. And I'm just in this big giant room. So we're in the open dorms. And I think there was probably maybe 50 people in there, 50 beds. But it was weird because they were all lined up against the wall. So it wasn't a row or anything of them. And so I had a top bunk right over there in the corner, which I thought was great because nobody can get behind me. I can kind of see. I'm just a very observant kind of guy. So I just sit there for a while, a couple weeks or whatever. Don't really talk to anybody. But my girlfriend, we're like 2 hours from home. So she was coming it was 4 hours visits for the weekend. You can do 2 hours and 2 hours, or you can just do a whole 4 hour visit. Well, I said, no, we're not doing one full 4 hours. I said, I need you to come visit both days,
All right,
Saturday and Sunday, so kind of break up my day. So we did that. Well, then eventually, I now started to get off my rack and started to talk to other people that were in there. I was on the phone a lot. And then I'm waiting. They send me down, they bring me down to the courthouse after I'm there for, I don't know, a few days or whatever. And like, yeah, because this charge is in Ohio, we can't get you a bail. I said, listen, guys, just give me a bail. I'll pay it now. And I promise you, I'll go and turn myself in there in Ohio. Let's not spend any of the taxpayers' dollars. Like, these are all things I'm saying while I'm like, sir, no, it's no, that's not going to. I'm like, are you sure that there's nothing we can do? And the day after I got arrested, my mom and my girlfriend had already hired an attorney already in Ohio. And so I'm like, well, can you like email them? Can we call them?
It's irrelevant. Nothing's going to change.
Nothing. No, and of course, just me being the salesperson, I'm like, there's got to be a way for me to
something out.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll finagle something, and I didn't. So now I go back to the county jail, and I'm waiting. I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting. I think I was there for 45 days before they had extradited me back to Ohio. And while I was there, now I started to get a little bit more comfortable, and I knew who I could talk to, who I couldn't. Now I'm starting to play spades, and in this county jail, it was weird. Everybody slept during the day and was up all night.
Right.
But so I remember the phones would cut off at a certain time, and right outside of the dorm was the tower or whatever where the COs would be. And the phone, you could see it right from there. So the phones would cut off at a certain time, and there was a couple of people in there that had my mom's number just in case if they had took me to go get extradited. So it's like 11 o'clock at night. I'm just really getting into the spades game and I'm starting to win, and I'm really starting to pick it up. And they call me, it's time for me to leave. So somebody in there calls my mom, and it's like 11 o'clock at night. It's for whatever reason, the phones just didn't cut off that night. So my mom knew immediately, that, getting that call that night, she knew I was gone. That was the worst 7 days ever. It took like 7 days for a 10-hour drive.
Yeah. From one county jail to another county jail.
But we didn't sleep at all at any of the county jails. And 3 days was what I think it took. And I didn't eat because I was afraid, if I eat, next thing I'm gonna have to take a shit, and just all this stuff. They didn't give us any water. It was literally like in the back of a van. And we just were sitting on these benches all across, all shackled together. Feet were all swollen, hands were swollen. It was horrendous. They could have made it a little bit more comfortable for us, but
I know they're not concerned about that.
No, they're not at all.
I used to always think to myself, does it have to be this uncomfortable? And yeah, they're not.
So now I get to the county jail there, and I'm there, and I get up like 2 days after I was there. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. They hand me a sheet of paper. I didn't see the judge or nothing yet. And they said, well, here you go. I read the paper. $1 million bail. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So in the state of Ohio, no matter what your charge is, they have to give you a bail, no matter what it is. So I'm like, man, there's no way I'm gonna be able to get out of here. So eventually I meet my lawyer, and I go over the stuff with him. He goes, all right, well, we're going to go in front of the judge. No. Actually, I went in front of the judge first. That was the first time I had met him. And he got it dropped to $70,000, my bail. So I went from like $1 million to $70,000. But I guess that first bail, if they would have set it at 70, I could have just paid it right then and then been out and didn't even go into my first appearance in front of the judge. So they set that one really high. So while I don't have the $7,000 at this point to pay it real quick. So my mom and my girlfriend, they got to get it. Takes them a few weeks to come up with the money to make sure we can get me bailed out. But while I'm there, I start running into all my co-defendants. And
Jimmy, Paulie,
yeah, oh yeah, there
Tommy.
was 7. There was 18 of us.
Oh,
Yeah, so not everybody was there, but we're there. You can obviously could talk through the toilet, you could talk through the vents, and they're all on different floors. So everybody's like, "Yeah, we got to go out to the yard." I'm like, "Dude, I'm not going out there. I just got in here. I got to observe and watch everybody first before I can make any moves." So I'm like, all right. Fine. So I go outside and we start talking. We're like, all right, everybody just keep your mouth shut and let's just shut up. So I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. So now we come back in from the yard. We're on the elevator. We go upstairs. One of the COs goes, Al, come with me. So where's he going? To the other guys. I go, he's going to tell right now.
Right.
That's where he's going. That's where he's going right now. And of course he comes back. He's like, then the next day we're like, nah, man, I didn't say nothing. Well, knowing what I know now, all my discovery and everything, he was the first one to buckle. So I'm there for like 73 days total, cumulative from the 45 to then get an extradited. Now I get out, and I go home and back to New York. My mom puts up her house and all that stuff to make sure that I can come back home, so I don't have to stay there. I get a job back selling cars at one place. I didn't care for it. I went to another place. We're fighting for about 2 years, going back and forth. The original lawyer that they hired,
mm-hmm.
we never saw eye to eye from day one. I'm normally the most cockiest, arrogant person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
He's normally the most cocky, arrogant person in the room. So after he gets my bail dropped to $70,000, he comes on in and he chats with me and says, hey, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. So I tell him, I go, all right. He asked me, I said, well, hold on, I got a couple questions for you, because this is the first time I'm ever meeting him. And I'm like, is this the biggest case you've ever done? Or, what? Oh, no, it's not. I had bigger cases already this morning before yours. And I'm just like, all right, cool. So we chat a little bit, and then I speak to his partner like the next day or something. He comes in and I say, hey, I want to just apologize. I think I might have rubbed him the wrong way yesterday. Right. So he says, yeah, you did a little bit. I said, it wasn't that. It was just, I've never talked to you. So now it's my turn to interview you to make sure that we did the right move. So, okay. So now a week goes by or whatever, and my lawyer comes back to talk to me. And I knew I was getting bailed out that day. I knew the money. I knew everything was ready. So he comes back and he's talking to me. He says, listen, they're here and they want to talk to you, the BCI and the Attorney General and all that stuff. And I said, well, for what? And he goes, well, they want to offer you a deal. I said, does it involve going to prison? He said, well,
almost
yeah,
always.
they're going to, I said, I'm not interested then.
That's a mistake.
Yeah. I said, I said, I'm not interested then. I said, if they want to talk to me and ask me for a deal that I don't care, probation, time served, whatever it is, I'm okay with that. But if they're offering me to go to prison, I'm out. He goes, all right. He goes, well, let me go talk to him and find out. He goes, here's the deal. I'll come and get you if I can convince them not to give you prison time. But if not, then I'm not even going to come back and get you.
Right.
Well, all of a sudden, the CO opens up the door, hollers my name. I'm rolling up all my stuff. I'm like, all right, I'm out of here. He goes, what the hell are you doing? I go, I'm leaving. He goes, no, your lawyer's looking for you. I said, oh, all right. Guess it's not time to go yet. So now they bring me downstairs and I walk in. I'm like, oh, here we go. No prison time. And I said, all right. So my lawyer goes, I said, I just want to make sure, guys, no matter what, you want him to go to prison, right? This is how you're starting the count. I just told you I got no interest. So they're like, well, how much time are you thinking? Is what my lawyer says. And they're like, well, more than 4, but less than 10. What kind of deal is that? Like, oh, more than 4, but less than 10? See, I'm not really interested, but thanks. And then they said, well, do you want to have some time with your lawyer? I said, yeah, sure. And they go out in the hallway. And it's a glass door, so I can see them. And he goes, all right, well, you want me to go out there and at least try to narrow down exactly how much time they want? I said, yeah. Let's do that. He goes out there, he comes back in, he says, 7 years. What?
For 1.5 million that you've got 18 conspirators?
Mm-hmm.
So
one of the girls, she got 4 years. That's what they sentenced her to, which is the manager who got fired a week after I got there.
Right. So she has very little culpability.
Correct. She was there on the legit side of the business. So,
well, how much time do you do?
Do I do?
No, in that system. If you get 10 years, how much time are you going to do inside?
There for that, you have to do, on that, if you did 10 years, you would have had to do, you couldn't get out early until you had to do at least 5 years, I think is what it was, because, of how their system works, I think.
Right. So if you get 5 years, you got to do 2.5 inside.
Correct.
Okay.
So, he says, yeah, we'll give you 7. I said, yeah. Okay, well, bring him back in. He's like, what are you going to take it? I said, bring him back in. So they come on in, they get all comfortable, getting ready to record everything. Said, yeah, no, thanks. Have a nice day. Bring me back upstairs. They're like, what? So of course, just me and my ego. Yeah, let him come back in. And my lawyer's. Are we going? No, we're not doing this. I'm not going to agree to 7 years, because at that time I still just thought I didn't do anything wrong.
You're delusional.
I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't.
Right.
Now, what the owner may have done, that's on him.
Right. But at this point, he's already he's most likely already telling them that you were the guy you're the one.
Correct.
Right.
So now a couple hours goes by, or maybe an hour or something. I get bailed out. My girlfriend's there. We go and meet my lawyer, and we got a couple conversations, and I think I got to go to the bail bondsman as well, do a couple things there. And my mom's there because she's got to sign paperwork and stuff. So I go and meet him. Now I go back home. I get some jobs, selling cars. I get to the lawyer and I, we're just not seeing eye to eye. We're just not. So he gets me a deal of 4 years.
Nice.
So I'm like, okay, well,
you do 2 years.
We're getting a lot closer.
Seems like a good deal.
Oh yeah. Knowing what I know today, that was a great deal. So I said, yeah, you're just fired. I said, you're fired. So we just were not seeing eye to eye.
You're not seeing eye to eye because you're unreasonable. You're not being reasonable. You're not accepting the fact that you've committed fraud that led to $1.5 million that maybe was probably on the low end that they actually hold, because there's all kinds of people.
That was 1.5 or more.
Or more.
So, yeah. So it was more, and they did tell us it was definitely more. But the thing is my lawyer just kept telling me, listen, yes, you can take this deal, but I think we can win. And
he's telling you can win at trial?
Oh yeah. And some of the thing is even to this day, I still believe that if we went to trial, I may have won. But the thing is here's what I think is I may not have won all of it, but in that time I would have thought, okay, I would win at least enough not to get 10 years. But I know a lot more today than I do that. But I still think there's portions of those charges that I would have won. Would I have gone to prison? Absolutely. I still would have. But I feel as if I would have been able to clear myself and got not guilty on some of it, because it didn't start out as, not on the up and up. So I wanted somebody to at least acknowledge that. And I still, to this day, at least want somebody to acknowledge that.
Bernie Madoff did not start off
I know
illegally.
that. Correct. He did not.
I think he got 150 years.
He did. Yeah. But, since then, though, I've done a lot more research. I've met more people that are like-minded like myself, and I made the right decision, once I get to there. But I was just like, yeah, we're just not seeing eye to eye.
You're fired. Yeah.
I fired. So what I'm thinking is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to New York City, which is about 4 hours from where I live, and I'm going to hire a big-time New York City lawyer that just walk in there, a big swing and it's like, this is how it goes, you little small timers. That didn't work out either. So I hired this guy. Well, come to find my girlfriend, my son's mom, she finds this lawyer. We find 2 lawyers. We go down there to interview them both. The first one I go there, it's like this Russian guy, and there's just like files everywhere. And we meet him at nighttime. To me, it was just very weird. But knowing what I know today, it's probably the lawyer I should have hired, because it looks like it probably was on the up and up, but it was one of those things like if it was like a perfect scene for maybe it wasn't, and they kind of know what's going on. So I go and I meet this other guy, and I hire him. Well, I do a little bit more research on him after the fact, and I don't even think he was a real attorney. I mean, he was a real attorney, but I think I don't know how long he had his law license
Right.
at the time. I think he was only doing public defender stuff
Right.
at that time. He also tried to sue the internet. Yeah. So again, it was just, he's from New York City. He's got to be good.
Got to be big time.
So I also had interviewed one lawyer, because then I started to do some more research that you can look up, like super lawyers and, all these people. But come to find out, these guys just pay to be super, it's just. But I went and met these guys in Ohio. I met them at like 11 o'clock at night, because that's the time that I had got there, and they stayed two lawyers. I wish I would have hired them. I wish I would have had more money to hire them, but they wanted like 20 grand up front, another 20 grand once the trial was over with, because I was 100% taking it to trial. It's just what I was going to do. I just didn't have the money at the time. And so I hired the guy from New York City. Worst mistake ever. I just don't think the guy ever just cared about me. Should have never fired my original one. So I go to there and to the courts with my new attorney, and he's still only 4 years. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not taking it. So my agreement, I've always said, was I don't want to do any prison time, but if anybody calls in, or if anybody messes with any of my friends who I got involved into this, or my kids' moms, or anybody in my family, I'll take whatever deal it is they give me. So my buddy, best friend from here in Florida, I get him and his wife involved, and they're some of the people that are going to pick up the Western Unions for me. So he texts me and says, hey, listen, call me. So I didn't see it. It's like 3 hours later, I'm at work. And I call, and he doesn't answer. So then he calls me like 3 days later and says, "Who's this?" I'm like, it's Roger. He says, "Oh," he goes, "I got some people came to my house. The cops came to my house and stuff." Now, me not being a dummy, I kind of put it together really quick. The cops were probably with him when he tried to get a hold of me the first time.
Right.
And then he didn't call me back till 3 days later because finally they could meet back up with him.
Yeah.
And so he goes, "I don't know what to tell him. What should I tell him?" I go,
Trying to get you on an obstruction of
Correct. I
justice
go-
charge.
"Tell him exactly the truth.
Right.
Tell him the truth. That's exactly what I want you to tell him. The truth." I go, "And you can look at him right now and tell him I said to tell the truth."
Right.
He goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "Yeah, why don't you look at him right now and tell him I said tell the truth." And he's, "Oh, well," so then I caught him off guard because now I think he thought that I knew that he was probably sitting there with him. So they do. So now he hangs up, and that's that. Then my son's mom, and this story, I don't know how true it is. Just, there's some backstory to her, but she's jogging one day, and one of the guys from the BCI stops her and starts questioning her, and then says, "Oh, didn't you just drop your son off over there? And then, you're doing this. And then yesterday." And so now in my head, I'm like, okay, you know what? It's just coming too close. We're going to, so the original deal that they had offered me 2 days before that was 4 years on a second-degree felony. So now on Friday, I called my lawyer and I said, "Listen, tell them I'll take that deal." And Monday, I was supposed to start trial. So I said, "Tell them I'll take the deal." So he calls me back and he says, "Yeah, they said no, they're not going to give you that deal." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Now that it's this close, they're going to give you 4 years still, but it's a first-degree felony." I go, "Dude, just call them and tell them let's take the." He goes, "Yeah, no, they're not going. They will not do it." So I'm like, "All right, screw it, I'll do it." And
What's the difference?
because for me in my head, it was more or less like it's
First
the
degree.
worst.
Okay. First
Versus-
degree, you're intentionally doing something. Second degree, you happen to do it, or by accident, or
In
what?
my mind, it was just more the first is worse than the second.
Okay.
So I think that's, and not only that, I think also just my stubbornness and my trying to still control the situation from the beginning when I got pulled over was I would have won, but now I'm bowing down and I'm allowing them still to win because they're giving them the first. I'm allowing them to still give me the first degree versus the second degree.
Right.
So I think it was just in my own head. There's really no difference. Who cares? So the way the state of Ohio works is if you do less than 5 years as your sentence, you can get out in as early as 6 months on what they call a judicial release. If your sentence is 5 years or more, you have to do at least half the time. So I now know at this point, I have 17 co-defendants. Every single one of them have talked to the cops, every single one of them. I was just the only one who didn't. And people can look at it as, "Oh yeah, you're the man, you did, but I still wouldn't change. No, the outcome that I have today, I still wouldn't change. It would not have benefited me talking to them. Maybe that one day, if I would have went there, maybe it would have, but
What kind of sentences did they get?
so the very first girl that got sentenced, she got 4 years. And they knew that the owner was going to get more time. So that's why they told me in the beginning, 4 years to 10 years, but they didn't know how much time he was going to get. So I think that that's why they said 4 to 10. And I think that they were hoping that he might get 7, and then I'll get 7. They took the 2 big guys down.
Right.
But some of them got probation, and all this. So which I forgot. So the owners, they had a daughter who actually had a brain tumor. So they thought we were running a telemarketing room out of their home. Like they came in, they thought we had like the secret room. We were doing all this stuff. There are people always coming in and out. That's because they had nurses. Like these are all things that they were all bringing up, you know, in my discovery. And so I was just like, all right, you know, so finally I just caved in. I said, all right, I'll take the 4 years and with the first degree felony. So he says, all right. So now I fly out on Monday, and the judge stands there and he says, he reads me off whatever. Engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity. So which is basically, it's a RICO case, but a state RICO.
Right.
So I said, he says, how do you plead? And I just remember standing there because even still at that time, I still almost just was like, yeah, no, not guilty. And I said, guilty. And, you know, then he goes through his whole spiel and everything. And I said, yeah, everything's all right. He goes, okay, we're going to have you come back for sentencing, which I think was like a month, 2 months later. So I go back home, get all my affairs in order, and I go to the gentleman who owned the dealership that I work for. He's one of the largest dealerships there. I explained to them that, you know, what I had going on, and I was going to go. And he said, well, how much, you know, how long? It's probably like 6 months. And I goes, oh yeah. He goes, who cares? So, I go now August 19th. I can't remember the year, 2012, something like that. And I get to sentencing, and they tell me they're going to give me the 4 years. But I made sure that it said in my plea agreement that they will not fight my judicial release. I made sure 100% that it said that. So I get there. I get sentenced to the 4 years, and it was just like immediately you could just feel like just the whole weight was just lifted off there from the fight from the last 2.5 years. So I get into there. I did 9 months total because the way it works is you get 6 months, and after 6 months, then you can apply for the judicial release. They can take up to 30 days to answer you. And then after that, once they answer you, they could take up to 30 days to give you your judicial release hearing. And you have to go all the way back to the jail where you were. So whatever county it was. So I applied after 7 months. My original attorney that I got, he's the one who took care of my judicial release for no extra money at all. And that guy, I should have. He had my best interest, you know, at heart the whole time, even though he still was saying, I think we could win if we went to trial. He always did have my best interest. Right. The second attorney, I just don't think that he did it all. I think that my own personal opinion is I just think that the amount of money that he was charging me, I think is probably some of the money that he was getting. He still thinks I still owe him some money, but whatever. But so we get to, everybody in prison's telling me, yeah, you know, if they give you the hearing, you're going home. If not, they'll just deny you and say, yeah, no, we're not going to give you the hearing. So I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. So all of a sudden I wait 7 months, then we do it. And of course they wait 30 days to answer me. Then of course they wait another 30 days for the date. So it comes out to be 9 months. And everybody's like, yeah, man, you're going home. You're going home. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure I am. I'm still very doubtful. So I did know though that other people, in my case, my co-defendants, they were getting out as well on their judicial releases. So at this point, it's only the owner and I were the only two that are still left in prison. And I tried to go to the same prison as him so that I would at least know somebody, but I'm glad I didn't. But I did my 9 months. I get to the hearing. And of course, when you come back from prison, you get to the county jail. You got to sit in the county jail for like in solitary for however long, 2 days, 3 days. So I sit there. I go to the hearing, and it's not the original prosecutors that I had that were there. And they said, well, yeah, they told us that they don't want him to get out. Are you serious? They're like, yeah, they're telling us that they never had any agreement that they would. All of a sudden, the judge picks up my original plea agreement, goes, and it was almost like he just got the whole, well, you better read this. Right. He says, like head waving and everything. You better read this. And like, well, no, sir, we're just relaying the message. And he goes, yeah, he's got to go. And so then they release me. And I was ready to walk right out of there, get in the car and drive back home. Like I'm thinking, I'm done. Because I knew that they were going to transfer my probation to back home. So when I got out, I only got a 2 years probation. So I did my 9 months, and then I get 2 years probation, not parole or anything like that. Right. And then I'm all done. So the 3.5 years or whatever it is, it just goes by the wayside. So luckily I didn't, because I come to find out I was supposed to go and check in Ohio the next day, which I did that. I got everything transferred to New York. And in New York, if you do your probation, you only have to do 50% of your probation time, and then you're good to go.
As long as you don't have any issues.
Right. As long as you do what you're supposed to do. So I go there, I meet the probation officer. He's like, all right, whatever. I think he just knew I wasn't your everyday person that he probably sees or anything like that. I remember one day he comes, knocks on the door, and my girlfriend answers the door, and he goes, hey, I was just checking. She goes, oh yeah, he's sleeping. And I could hear somebody was knocking. So I'm getting dressed. I was still sleeping. I was getting dressed. And he goes, oh, no. He goes, I see the men's shoes. Don't worry about it. And he goes to leave. And I'm like, oh, no, sir, I'm right here. He goes, okay, yeah, no problem. And then I was supposed to check in with him once a week. Then I got to once a month. And then I got to, listen, buddy.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. I'll and I was only on there for a year. So he was, he was cool. He didn't bother me. So now I'm all done with probation. 2 years goes by. And I'm working. I'm working at the dealership. And I'm doing, somebody's there picking up their vehicle. I'm doing paperwork. I'm putting their plates on. I go outside, and all of a sudden these people come out of this SUV, camera crew, big sign, says, hey, we want to know if you want to win fame and fortune. We're here from a game show. We're getting ready to film a pilot for it. And we're looking for contestants. I'm like, nah, I'm cool, thanks. They're like, you don't want to win fame and fortune? I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm starting to get my life back. They're like, really? Come on, it's just 2 questions. I'm like, fuck it, come on. What do you? And so now I start to ask them questions. Well, who else have you talked to? Because where it is it's a whole strip of dealerships, and I know everybody. Mm-hmm. That's on the strip. They're like, yeah, we went over there. I'm like, really? Who'd you talk to over there? Well, we can't really disclose that kind of information.
Sounds like a game show.
Right. So it was almost like the signs were definitely there, but I knew there was going to be a catch, or there was something right from the beginning. So they said, the only thing you got to do is answer 2 questions. And I'm like, all right, fine. Come on, let's go so I can move on with my night. And they said, name one of the quarterbacks that are playing this year in the Super Bowl. I said, Cam Newton. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, yep, that's one. Okay, who is the first lady's name? And at the time, it was the Obamas. And I couldn't remember her first name. I don't know why, just at that second. I go, Mrs. Obama?
Right.
And they're like, no, the first name. I go, Michelle Obama. They're like, oh, congratulations. Yeah, you got the 2 questions right, blah, blah, blah. So like, we'll be in contact with you if you are going to be one of the contestants. Like, all right. So then I go back to work. Now they start emailing me. Yeah, congratulations. Another red flag. They tell me we're gonna come on down to New York City. Everything's paid for. You're gonna do the filming at Trump Towers. So we get our hotel, all that stuff. My girlfriend and I, we come down there to New York City. We fly down, and they put us up in a hotel. I go to the hotel. Then the next morning, they're late to come pick me up, and I'm sitting behind the driver, and my girlfriend's sitting behind the passenger, but she can see whoever she's texting right over the seat. So she's texting me now. It's like, man, they're really mad at her. We're late, this and that. But they weren't saying anything in there. So anything suspicious, they weren't saying anything in there. So we get to the place. Immediately, I was like, this ain't Trump Towers.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a rundown building that it just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, all right, well, whatever. I can't pull my phone out and say, hey, wait a minute. I thought we were going to Trump Towers. Saying, all right, screw it. I'll just keep moving. But the entire time, I just knew there was some kind of catch. And they told me they were going to pay me $1,000 to be on this pilot. So I'm like, okay, what's going to be the catch? They're not really going to pay me the $1,000. So I get in there, and they're staging me all up for going on this pilot. They got me walking down these stairs talking about, hey, you want to win money? You're going to win fame and fortune. They're like, come on, get some more excitement. Now, anybody who knows me and that has seen the video, you can't find it online. I just can't find it, the actual video of it anymore. But anybody who saw the video goes, that's not, you could tell like you weren't really there all excited. Like you could tell you were a little reserved. So they got me coming down the stairs, all this acting that I'm going to win all this money. So then they're like, okay, everybody else is already here. The other 2 contestants are already here. They've already done all this stuff. Okay. So they put me in this room. And now I'm starting to ask them questions. The other 2 contestants, they're there. Like, hey, what's going on? Did you guys? Yeah, we did. And they were real quiet, real hush hush. And knowing what I know today, they couldn't talk very much, probably because something would have came up. So I'm on this game show, and I'm losing on this game show, whatever question it is. The other 2 contestants.
They do a whole game show?
A whole game show. Like actual contestants, a host, everything. And actually standing in front of a podium with a buzzer, everything. I'm losing. I'm like, oh man, how am I going to win fame and fortune this way?
Right.
So I all of a sudden they ask a question, and you have to wait until they're finished asking the questions, and then you can buzz in and answer. Well, I don't remember what the question was, but the answer was boiler room. Got it. So it was movie clips.
Right.
Boiler room was one of them. Wolf of Wall Street. And now all of a sudden I'm making a comeback. And I look over at my girlfriend, and she just knew, this is it. We're about to make a comeback. Yeah, let's go. Then all of a sudden it pops up. Do we know, is something along the lines of elderly man scams, or a gentleman scams elderly or bilks them out of millions of dollars in a land scam or something like that. And this is right after Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff wasn't coming to my mind, but I knew that's what I wanted to buzz in and say, because I was just like, I'm already on a roll. This is easy now. I got the answers to these. So they're like, does anybody know the answer? No. The other two people, they were buzzing in like crazy before.
Right.
Now they're not buzzing in. And they go, Roger, you don't know the answer? No, I don't know the answer. All of a sudden now all the lights come on. It's you. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, we've got some of your victims here in the crowd.
There was a crowd? How many people?
I think there was like 10 people in the crowd.
Okay.
But I couldn't see them when I came in there because the crowd lights were dark.
Right.
And so at this time, I stand there and she's like, I'm so-and-so Guerrero or something like that. I think was her name. Is her last name. I don't remember what her first name was. And she's like, we're here and we've got some of your victims in the crowd and blah, blah, blah. We want to talk to you about it. Now, in that fast, I thought about kicking over this podium, running and drop kicking the guy who came to my work,
right,
and tricked me into going there. Now, I've already been off of probation for 2 years.
Right. This is way behind you.
Well, correct. It's way behind me. I'm now moving on. And so, but I don't do any of that. I just walk over to the guy and say, hey, where's my jacket? And like, he's just sitting there looking at me. So now I'm above him. Where is my, and finally I must have said it 2 or 3 times. And finally it's over there in that room. And now security's over there and they're, so they got me all mic'd up and stuff. And I just put my jacket on. I got my suitcase and my girlfriend, we walked down these stairs. Now we're in the streets of New York City. They still got their camera crew and all this. And they're like, the guy's like, give me the microphone. What, the security guy. He's like, we're going to get you for theft. But, and he knew, he was real close to me because he knew if I took it off, I probably would have threw it.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets it right out of my hand. And then they're following me. And my girl, she's just like, she was like almost trying to fight them and upset. And I can't remember, like, if she had a bag and she was swinging the bag at them or she was actually swinging. I can't remember. It's a little bit of a blur even then. But all of a sudden, the guy who comes to my work says, we do have a vehicle for you that will bring you back to the airport. It's right over here. And I turn around and I go, fuck you. And I turned back around and I walked away. So on the article, if you read it, and on the video it says, and he's got one last statement for his victims. Fuck you.
Right.
And I'm like, that's not how that went down.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. And I'm like,
trust me.
I'm like, that is not how that went down at all. And so now a couple weeks goes by and it airs. I was like a celebrity. I got to half a day of work to go home to watch it because they didn't want me there, when it aired or whatever, just for me, because who knows how I would have been or whatever. Right. So, go home and I'll watch it. The worst part is I was supposed to get a promotion to business manager at the time. So like the finance manager, buying the car and everything. And once this happened, they were kind of like, man, we don't know. We got to let some of this stuff die down. And once that happened, I was just so angry, at the place, you guys know me. That's, you guys already knew that. You held my job for me. The owner writes a letter to the judge on my judicial release, the manager. I mean, everybody, so, I just get it. I go on the game show and, I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like He's 2 years behind me,
Right.
at least 2 years behind me.
And this was Inside Edition.
Inside Edition. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. She comes, it's Inside Edition. And a couple of the people that were in the crowd, they go, my mom got, or my dad got this and that. I'm like, no. Okay, first of all, I recognized the name.
Right.
I never even talked to them. It wasn't me. Because, you started to learn some of the names of the people, but I was just like, and still at that time, I was just like, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, for the longest time, I have always thought that. And more in the last year to year and a half, I have started to think like I said earlier, is all the shit that I went through, like growing up and all that kind of stuff. And I was taking meds and all that kind of stuff till I was 18. And I got back on it about a year and a half ago. Is my mental health, I just never cared about it to the point to where I feel like my mental health and all that kind of stuff, and in correlating that and trying to actually sit around and think, you did do some stuff that you shouldn't have done.
Right.
Was there some stuff that you did that was okay? Sure. Again, not illegal, but definitely unethical. But yeah, I come to find out it was Inside Edition, and I said, well, screw it. I cashed the $1,000 check, and
They did send you $1,000
they
check?
gave it to me while I was there. And the worst part about it is they make me fill out like a 1099 sheet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm there, and I'm like, you guys aren't going to get me for $1,000. I put the wrong social security number down on the 1099 sheet. So after that, I'm like, oh shucks, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Right.
Because now I definitely look like I was doing something wrong. But yeah, they gave me $1,000 check while I was there. I mean, I don't know how much the other contestants made, but
What do you think? I noticed that on the article, like there's two different articles that I saw, and both the videos said video unavailable. Like,
Yeah.
What do you think?
So if you read, so there was a spot on there that you could read some of the comments, and what Inside Edition, what all of the people who said on the comments was very, very, it was a lot of comments like, shouldn't have done that. That's so trashy of you guys. That guy did his time. What if he left there and killed himself?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was successful as what they wanted. So I think they just took it down. I don't know. I don't know why. Because when you and I talked, you said, hey, if you can try to find the video.
Mm.
And even before that, I couldn't find the video. I haven't been able to find it in a long time. But if you click on that, it says it's not available, but it's got the still shot of me standing there behind the podium.
Okay.
But I don't know why I can't find the video anywhere online.
Because you see the Price is Right. Clip from the Price is Right.
Yeah, then
Price
running
is
down
Right.
the aisle.
Yeah.
Da-da-da.
Yeah,
I can put your face on it.
Yeah, I wish I could find it, but because today I'd love to watch it and see where and study it.
All right.
Where were you an idiot and you didn't catch on? But immediately too, as soon as they revealed themselves, I was just like, okay, there's the catch.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I knew there was a catch. There it is. All right, let's go. Yeah, I was just ready to go.
I wonder what they thought you were going to do. Like,
Yeah, they even said, hey, come on, we can just sit down and we'll just talk with you. Are you guys nuts? You think I'm just going to sit here and chat with these people? And
He's like,
yeah, with them and you guys. No, if that's really what you guys wanted to do, and you wanted those victims to confront the person that scammed them, then you would have just come to me and said, hey, listen, we'd like to do an article on you.
Yeah, there'd be a lot.
And
it's a lot better ways to go about doing it.
Correct. And that was the very, that was a sleazy, what they did it for ratings and for, and it was just a sleazy way of doing it. But I probably still wouldn't take that back either. I'd probably still, knowing what I know now, I probably still would have done it. I just probably would have done it a little bit smarter to where I outdid them at the end instead of them outdoing me. But, and then since then, after that, I've gotten in some trouble here and there. But nothing. Nothing real bad. It's more or less just like family court nonsense with my kids' moms. I got 3 kids, 3 different moms, 19, 14, and my youngest is 5. So
baby mama drama.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of it. But fast forward to like 3.5 years, I just meet my wife, and now I'm just trying to live my life as on the up and up as I can.
I hear you. What are you doing?
I'm over here trying to find the video.
It's gone.
Look at this. It's playing.
This guy is really worked up. It's time to win some money. He's
Oh,
about to be a contestant on a
is
new
it.
How'd you
TV
find
game
it?
show called The Game
I just typed your name in.
Thanks to a game show that we created.
You found it too?
Now, one of the contestants is
He just sent it to me.
Yeah.
Oh.
a real estate scam.
That targeted seniors in 41 states. He did just over a year in prison, even though millions of dollars was lost. He has no idea that for him, the game of fame is about to turn into the game of shame. And some of his victims are in our studio audience to give him a piece of their mind.
This guy is really worked up.
It's time to win some money.
He's about to be a contestant on a new TV game show called The Game of Fame. Or so he thinks. The real name of the show? That's right, Game of Shame. We rented out an empty theater in Manhattan and transformed it into a game show set, complete with podiums, lights, buzzers, a live audience, and of course a game show host. That would be our Lisa Guerrero.
Yeah.
What Roger Van Doren doesn't know is that his fellow contestants are working for us. And sitting in the audience are some of his victims and their relatives who we flew in from around the country.
Really doesn't even look like you.
Moment to meet the contestants.
Roger, what do you do?
I'm a car salesman.
A car salesman. What kind of car? Used or new or what?
Both.
You're good at selling things.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's see. Name the movie where a bunch of wannabe stockbrokers are taught how to lie, cheat, and steal over the phone.
The only people making money passing are NFL quarterbacks, and I don't see a number on your back.
Roger.
Boiler Room.
Boiler Room for 200 points. Correct.
How did we know for sure he was going to answer correctly? Because investigators say he used the movie Boiler Room as a training video to motivate his workers to swindle old people.
It was beyond a ripoff. It was truly a scam. It was stealing. I mean, they literally stole millions.
Who's that?
Oh, that's one of the investigators.
He's the slick telemarketer who took advantage of vulnerable senior citizens in a classic land scam that made millions. Do you need a hint? Roger, does this sound familiar at all to you? The answer is you, Roger Van Doren, and this isn't actually the game of fame, it's the game of shame. And I'm not a game show host. I'm actually Lisa Guerrero with Inside Edition. And there are some people in the audience that have something to say to you, Roger.
Roger, I still feel like you should be in prison.
This guy says he lost $7,000 to Roger's phony land scam.
Our dad was one of the thousands of seniors who were hurt.
These 3 sisters say their dad, who suffered from dementia,
Were you
lost
here for this?
$30,000.
What you do to the elderly is unconscionable. How do you sleep at night?
And this 76-year-old lady
I was
lost
just standing there.
$4,000.
Roger, do you have anything to say to the people that were some of your victims?
Not at all. Thank you, though.
Are you sure? Because you went to prison and you never paid back some of your victims. Do you have an apology for them?
Yeah.
Where's my jacket?
You hurt many, many people.
Where's my
You
jacket?
took people's entire life savings, Roger. Do you think that's fair?
Roger and his girlfriend grabbed their things and stormed off the set.
We need the microphone, Roger, if you don't mind.
Roger Van Doren only had one last departing message to offer.
Here's what I got to say. Go yourself.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh man.
When's the last time you saw that?
Oh man, it's been a long time since I've seen that.
You want me to shoot it to you?
Yeah. My wife would get a kick out of it because she's never seen the whole video.
Oh my gosh.
Inside Edition.
So I wonder if we can pull that off.
Yeah, I can. I can screen record this later.
Or you can. Is there one you can dump the link into, or is it not work like that? Is it playing through
Maybe
the website?
not. I don't know. It's probably not playing through YouTube. So I can try, but worst case I can screen record it.
Look.
Yeah. So now, yeah. What do you feel after watching that?
It's just part of my life. It's just where I am. It is what it is at this point. You know, it's been over 10 years since, you know, I've been home, even off probation. So
I always wonder what people think that it's funny. It's like you go to jail for whatever, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And they had the time, they said over a year, but so somebody does something wrong and they go to jail for 5 years. And then you get out and then they're like, oh, you got to pay all that money back. Well, wait a minute. I just went to prison for 5 years. Like, what am I supposed to do? Well, and if you ask people, how do you expect me to pay the money back? They'll tell you like every dollar you make from here on out should have to go to pay restitution. It's like, yeah, but wait a second. I have to pay my bills. Oh, that's your problem. No.
Correct.
I have to pay my bills. And then they're like, well, every dollar other than your basic necessities should go to, it's like, no, wait a minute. Like I still have to retire someday.
Correct.
I still have to live a life. And you know, they have these unreasonable expectations and you're like, okay, but here's the thing. If I was in a car accident and I killed someone, I would go to jail for 10 years and I would get out and I'd continue on with my life. But because I have a financial crime,
correct,
you want to make me whole. You want me to do the same amount of time that a violent criminal does and pay back all that money. But if I had sold drugs, I don't have anybody to pay back. So I just go to jail for 5 years and I get to live my life. Like people are unreasonable with what they expect. Or society in general, for the most part, is unreasonable for what they expect you to do to fix these things. And it's like, if you'd wanted me to pay you back, then you probably should have shown up at my sentencing and said, don't go to prison, Your Honor. He's supposed to go to prison for 10 years. Let's make him pay as much as he can within 10 years.
Correct.
But they don't think that way.
No, and for me, I was not asked to pay any restitution at all.
Right. So then to me, that's the deal. Like if you guys have a problem, you should go to the government.
Correct. You should go to them.
Because they agreed I didn't have to pay.
Correct.
Right.
The only person out of any of us that needed to pay restitution was Ted, the owner.
Okay.
He's the only person that they had asked to pay restitution.
See, that's funny because like the government will come in, the federal government will come in and say, oh, there's 10 different conspirators and you guys stole $10 million cumulatively and each one of you owes $10 million. And you're like, well, no, I should owe $1 million.
Right.
No, whoever can pay it off, then that person pays it off for everyone else. And you're like, this doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense at all.
Like, what if Jim is an idiot and just never gets his shit together again, but I do because I'm a hustler. I now owe Jim's restitution. So Jim made $3 million and I have to pay back his $3 million.
Yeah,
like, it's not set up. It's not set up in a way that honestly benefits the individual and really benefits society in general. Like it sucks that these people lost their money. You know, that's a shitty situation. It's a shitty thing to do in general. But society says, well, then you have to go to prison. Okay, I went to prison. Now I'm out. Oh, and you have to do this.
Correct.
And even if I paid you, then you know what it would be? Well, you have to pay me interest. Okay,
Correct.
well, I pay you interest now. Okay, but then what? Well, I could have invested that money into stocks and I could have made this. Like, cut the fucking shit.
Right.
Bro.
It's gotta stop somewhere.
Right. The truth is you're never gonna be happy.
Correct.
So
it has to stop somewhere.
Right.
And yeah, for me, it is shitty. It sucks that,
But the government's the person who makes that deal.
They made that
They made the
decision.
deal.
They're the ones who made that decision, and that is the decision that we had, agreed to.
Right.
So, that's already done. So me coming on out and these guys, saying,
The game show is funny though.
it is kind of funny.
It's scummy. It's sleazy. But that's Inside Edition. You have to
Correct. That's
expect-
them. That's right. That's them. Well, I mean, yeah, I expect it, but I didn't know that it was Inside Edition to begin with.
You know what's funny is Tom Segura or Tim Segura? Tom Segura. You know what I'm talking about? The comedian?
I know. Oh yeah.
I think it's Tom
The
Segura.
Garth Brooks.
Yeah, the Garth Brooks thing. So I've been watching more and more of his videos.
Yeah.
Because he says Garth Brooks is a serial killer. And because they've turned this whole thing into like a movement now, it was like front page of the newspaper of the Inquirer. And he holds up the Inquirer. He's like, it's good to be vindicated. He goes, and this is a reputable national publication. This is reputable. I mean, it's the Inquirer. So it's like Inside Edition to me is the TV version of the Inquirer.
Yeah, and I refuse to I don't care if I see a commercial for Inside Edition, and I don't care how intriguing it might be or how I refuse. They're not getting my rating. It's just not going to happen.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this. Share the video and to anybody you think might be interested. Also, please consider joining our Patreon. It's $10 a month, and we put Patreon exclusive content. So there's conversations that we had that didn't make the video, and those conversations typically end up on Patreon. We also have uncensored videos if you have a problem with the censorship that we have to do for YouTube. So once again, it's $10 a month. Really does help us. It helps us make these videos. I really appreciate you guys watching. And also, if you've been arrested in Polk County, we would like to talk to you about your story. If you've been arrested by Grady Judd's team of Polk County Sheriffs, please contact us. We're going to leave my email address will be in the description. Please contact us. We're super interested in doing interviews with people that have been arrested in Polk County. Once again, thank you very much. See ya.